Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. We'll get out into the garden. I'll talk about the cool weather crops that I'm planting just real quick. Right down here I am acclimating all my indoor seed starts that I've been growing inside and did that whole series on. I'll link the series video. But they have to get used to the sun because they don't have any UV rays hitting them. They're kind of fragile, and if you just put them outside into full sun, they're going to get damaged. If you don't want to use grow lights, you don't have the space indoors, you can also grow your own transplants right in the front. Those are all tomato plants, and they are growing really well. And those are the cool weather crops back there. And you can actually just set these containers up and you move them in and out. I'll link the video that I did on that. But you bring them outside when it's warm enough. You bring them inside when it's too cold. It takes longer for them to get started, but you end up with some wonderful transplants. You can save yourself a lot of money, and you don't need the grow room set up. Let's get out to the garden there. So this is really my growing station. Got a potting table there on the left. Put out a lot of my plants that are in smaller containers there. Start outdoor transplants, all kinds of different projects going on here. To kind of cover it up a little bit, I just dropped in those panels, painted them white, and I have red roses that will be climbing up there, and I think that will look really good. In the garden, I've started a lot of work, got my different cattle panel up and going. I dropped in a lot of peas into these containers. So I have 10-gallon containers here filled with the shredded hardwood. I've been working, growing in that for the last couple of years and kind of figured out how to do that. So I have peas coming up. You can see them starting to break the surface. They probably went in about 7 to 10 days ago. I also have some arugula coming up, put in a sprinkle of seeds into that, and there's going to be some sort of red leaf lettuce coming up, and I think that will look really cool. This is the fruit section of my garden. Spinning around this way, we'll talk about those containers because I'm actually growing tomatoes right now outdoors. And here, Maryland Zone 7, it's March 19th. We're still getting frosts. We'll get more frost in April. Talk about that in a second. This is my green stalk tower. All the lettuces that I've been growing indoors have been transplanted out here about 7 days ago, last weekend, and they're doing really well. If you want to grow vertically, I highly recommend the green stalk towers. There is a link in the video description. I've been using these for a good solid 4 seasons. That container has been outside through 4 summers. No fading, no cracking, no damage from UV rays. Spinning around here, I moved all of my kale that overwintered right into this space. And this is not going to grow leafy kale greens. You see some growing, but what they're mostly going to do is end up getting a lot of buds and flowers. They're absolutely delicious. That's why I like the overwintering kales. Add them to salads. You can eat them whenever you want. So this is a space where I've dropped in a couple different tomato plants, and it's basically using 2 containers, clear enough to let the light in, but not so clear that it bakes the plants, and I put in a tomato plant. I'm hoping to get tomatoes mid-March, and I want them to be trellising, they're cherry tomato types, trellising right up the cattle panel, and I just keep them sealed with 2 containers. If it works, I will do a video on it, but I like to make sure before I do any videos that I actually go through the process and make sure it works. I just don't want to be talking about something for the sake of talking about it. All right, let's walk through the garden and I'll show you what I've planted. So this is a flat of cool weather crops I grew indoors. There's broccoli in there, cauliflower, kales, all kinds of different things. They got used to the sun over the last week. I'll be planting those into here over the last couple of weeks. I did get some broccoli in. I tend to plant things more closely, and I said broccoli. This is cabbage. So you can plant cabbage based on the size of the plant every foot, 2 feet, or 3 feet apart. But this is new cabbage that's been dropped in. I'll be refreshing all my kales. For instance, that's kohlrabi back there. There's some kohlrabi in here. I'll be refreshing all the greens that overwintered with brand new plants because I want better production. Anything that's going to overwinter isn't going to really produce something you can eat, like in the form of a root or a nice big head. It's just going to be lots of small buds, small flowers. You won't get a lot of leaves, but they're absolutely delicious. I highly recommend leaving your kales, even your cabbages, even your broccolis in the ground and see if they make it and overwinter. So this is a space that I filled out, filled with the double shredded hardwood. And I do recommend, because it can be so overwhelming, especially if you have a big garden, is always start in a corner and then work your way back. And as you work your way back, you can kind of appreciate all the work that you've done. Sitting under here was my first lettuce that I put out, and you can see that it's coming up. I use these vases as cloches to keep it warm, and they grow a little bit quicker. So I like planting things different ways, different times. For instance, right over here are all of my radishes. And here are the first wave of radishes that I planted. And pretty much I just prepare the soil for radishes, no extra fertilizer, finger hole, about 1/2 inch deep, drop in 2 seeds. When these are a little bit bigger, I'll thin them down to 1. But you want to make sure that you plant your radishes and your lettuces at different times, like every 2 weeks, succession sowing. Because if you plant 200 radishes all at the same time, they're all going to mature at the same time. And as good as they are, it's hard to eat 200 radishes. So this is my first wave. They've actually been growing just about 2 weeks. I'll wait a little bit longer. I want to see another big leaf come out of here, and then I'll plant another wave of radishes. Back there, densely seeded arugula. That grows really fast, and if you want to grow arugula, I recommend planting it by seed, not into containers indoors, because it'll grow too quickly, it'll flower too quickly, and you're not going to get a lot of the great tasting leaves. So right now you've seen cabbage, radishes, arugula, all great cool weather plants. These are some other greens, leafy greens, kales, cabbages that overwintered. Swiss chard was dropped in right in there. You can grow in containers if you want. That is 3 kinds of kale. I really recommend kales. You can grow them in containers, in the ground, in small spaces, and they're absolutely delicious. And they're really, really versatile too. They are a 3-season crop, which I like to call spring, summer, and fall. They keep growing, and the leaves even change flavor. When it gets warmer, they're not as sweet. They can overwinter. You get a kind of a 4th season out of them. They'll have all the flowers and the buds. So in here I have planted 5 broccoli plants. Again, I plant them a little bit more closely together. Really should have about 2 feet, but in a raised bed you can put things more closely together. Broccoli is another great cool season crop. Garlic, I put my garlic in the fall, another cool season crop. 2 kinds of kale right there. That is a mustard green, a couple of plants in there. Those are really fast growing leafy greens with a little, spiciness to it. That's why they call them mustard greens. Swiss chard, just planted some carrots and beets in there. Cilantro. Cilantro is also a cool weather crop. It can take a frost. It can take a freeze. A lot of people don't know that. We kind of associate it with salsa and Mexican food, and for that reason we think it's a warm weather plant. It's not. It actually survived the entire winter here in one of the garden spaces that I have. Okay, let's go over to the outside over here. I'll talk about the compost and the new garden I'm growing, or the new garden I built, soon to be growing in it. So right outside I have a couple more beds. These are all plants the deer and animals aren't going to eat. A little bit of an experiment, but they're not going to really bother with garlic. So that's more garlic. Great cool weather crop. These are leeks that I grew as transplants indoors for pennies a plant. I mean, this probably cost me $3 in seeds and my time to grow them. So these are all leeks. These are all red onions, Bermuda onions, or burgundy onions. And I'll be putting more onions out over the week. Spinning around slowly. This is my cold frame that I built. I just did one. I wanted to see if the design worked, and it worked extremely well. The top has been off, loaded with cool weather plants. And this is actually, I showed you a tiny mustard green. This is the same plant, except this has been growing over the winter. And again, you can see all the different buds on there. It's going to be absolutely delicious. Spinach in there, another cool weather plant. Kale right in here. Arugula, red oak leaf lettuce in the back. I'm going to probably build a couple more of these because it was successful, but I've been eating out of here regularly over the last couple of weeks. Just put up this wall. A lot of people have asked me questions about the archery and the axe throwing. So I don't hunt, But I do enjoy throwing axes. That's knife throwing over there on the right. And I just put up this screen so you can't really see it from the driveway when you pull up, or this fencing. And I'll probably try and grow some fruit trees or some grapes or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in this space, but I'm thinking about it. And then if you come around here, this is where I do target practice with pellet guns and archery. This is the kind of back part of my yard, which you can't really see, so the neighbors can't see over here, so that's nice for them. I can't really see it, which I don't mind, but you know, I try and keep the wife happy. So this is all composting. So cold composting going on right here. That's the pool for Tucker. We fill it up with water. That's for the dog. But I'll be setting this all up and hopefully have tons of compost come the middle and later part of the season. And I really want to switch over to just double shredded hardwood in my garden and my own compost. Was going to build some worm bins for worm composting, but I've actually worked out a relationship with Hungry Bins, and I'm going to be setting up one of their systems, show you how to do it, and I'm going to be doing all my worm composting through Hungry Bins. So this is my other garden that I just built. It's a 16-foot by 16-foot square space. It's going to start a new series for people that are just getting started. I always get asked, well, how big should my garden be? So I recommend a 16-foot by 16-foot space. You don't need to start growing in all of it, but you're going to want to expand. If you love it, you're going to want to expand. This is fencing that I rescued from my wooded area. Put in a couple of raised beds, 10-inch sides, 12-inch sides. Going to be filling that in the next video on, you know, starting a garden. I'll link that video too. But what I wanted to show you was this space here. I am going to be growing lion's mane mushrooms in here, and they're already been seeded using different things in there. I'm using a block of sawdust that has lion's mane mycelium growing in it. I'm also using the wood plugs too, and we'll see if it works. Love mushrooms. I'm always a little bit fearful that I might eat the wrong one, but you can't mistake lion's mane mushroom for something else. It's delicious, tastes like seafood. So that's the tour of the garden. You know, this is my really whole garden space, which, you know, took me a good 15 or 20 years to save up and get to, and I'm really happy to be here. And I appreciate all of you and our ability to interact and really share a passion from all around the globe. This is a really difficult time for all of us with the virus and with uncertainty. And I just want to say that it's perfectly normal to be anxious, scared, and worried. But even though that happens and it's a day-to-day thing, please take the time just to go out, enjoy your garden, take a break, and it's going to work out. We're going to get through this. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care of yourself. Take time to really enjoy everything you've created out in your gardens. Thanks for watching.